Well, we're over at the Lincoln stand, and I'm speaking to Lisa Drake, the Chief Engineer for the Lincoln MKC. Lisa, I want to thank you for joining us on the road trip here at the LA Auto Show.
Thank you.
Now, Lisa, you're beaming, and I think it has a lot to do with all the hard work that has gone into developing this vehicle, and also developing it in the sense that really brings the idea of bespoke back to North America.
Yeah, we're very excited with the MKC. We started from ground up thinking about this car, and we knew that Lincoln really had to redefine itself in this segment. It's a very competitive segment, Audi Q5s, BMW X3s, great products. So we really paid a lot of attention to craftsmanship and attention to detail, material selection in the whole interior and exterior of the C.
Now, the thing that people are talking about a lot when it comes to the MKC has been the fact that much of its platform is borrowed from the Ford Escape, but I understand that's a bit of a dirty word when it comes to what you've developed for chassis.
Well, it's not a dirty word. I mean, the Escape is a phenomenal product. I mean, it does very well for us all over the globe, so we're very happy with the Escape. And the Escape, one of the things that it's really going for it is its size. It has great cargo carrying capacity and great occupant capacity. So when we set out to develop a compact premium sport utility vehicle, it's probably no surprise that we looked at the platform that the Escape came off of. But that's kind of where that conversation stopped. From there, we really had to set our sights on what we needed to deliver in terms of platform changes to really compete with the likes of the Audi Q5s and the BMW X3s. And so once we started that journey, the first thing we did is we widened the track. We knew that we wanted the exterior design to look fundamentally different, have all the Lincoln DNA that we started with the MKZ. So widening the track, lowering the occupants in the vehicle to give us a really sleek sloping roofline was one of the first decisions we made. And then from there, we just kept changing the platform where we needed to compete in this segment.
Now, what is also unique between the strut towers up front is the use of EcoBoost powertrains and an even more potent version of the four-cylinder EcoBoost.
Yes, we're very excited. So we do have the 2-liter EcoBoost engine as standard equipment. It's a fantastic engine for us in the MKC, but we knew that to be very credible, we needed a premium powertrain step up and something that really delivered the torque capability that we were looking for. So we have the debut of the new 2.3-liter EcoBoost engine, 275 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque. And when we did that, we really had to take it through the whole systems, new torque converter, upgraded gears in the all-wheel drive system, new cooling pack to handle the increased horsepower and the heat generation. Really a fundamental architecture change with the 2.3.
You told an interesting story with the rest of the group about the use of LED lighting and how many manufacturers don't realize that it needs to be tailored to the color on the exterior.
Yeah, so most of the time you see LEDs that shine away from the car, but when you start to use them to shine towards the car, like in the door handles, it reacts differently with the different colors of car. So on a white car, if you shine an LED on it, it's going to bounce all that light back at you. If you shine that same LED on a black car, it's going to absorb all that light. So it's going to look different on different cars. So in order to manage that, we've learned how to tune the intensity of the same LED. So in the factory assembly plant, when a white car comes down the line, we tune that intensity to one level. When a black car comes down the line, we tune it to a different level. It's all about that attention to detail and the craftsmanship on the car.
You know, speaking of craftsmanship, there's a very interesting Canadian story when it comes to the new clamshell gate.
Yes, we were very excited to partner with a supplier called Amino, and they are from Canada. When Max Wolf and his exterior design team first drew the lines on the clay of that wraparound liftgate, I really thought he was joking because there were no traditional engineering cut lines on the liftgate that we would see when we would break up panels for stamping. So Max said he really wanted a clean design and something that really gave the vehicle the width that we had developed with the stance and the wider track. So we were fortunate enough to partner with Amino, and they are experts in hydroform stamping. So what we were able to do to deliver Max's vision is actually stamp that very large important panel out of one piece of sheet metal through hydroform technology, which is essentially water forming.
Well, Lisa, a market departure from what I was expecting for this compact expectation for the luxury SUV. Want to thank you for showing it to us here at the LA Auto Show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having us.
And now we're talking to Matthew Van Dyke from Lincoln, and it's a global sense that Matt is normally dealing with, and we wanted to find a little bit more out about what is going to be happening to the brand as it spreads out into new markets. Matthew, I want to thank you for joining us on the road trip.
Thanks so much. Great to be here with you. Yeah, we're very excited at Lincoln as we have the second of 4 all-new vehicles that we're introducing in 4 years. The MKZ we brought to market this spring, and we're standing in front of the all-new Lincoln MKC, which will launch in the spring, summer of next year. And as you mentioned, we're launching here, but we're also bringing the brand globally and expanding into China next year.
Let's talk a little bit about the Chinese luxury market and some of the brands that have really put a strong foothold there, and what you need to do to be big in China for the luxury set.
Sure. Well, China is the largest automotive market in the world today, and very soon it will be the largest luxury automotive market in the world. So it's very important, if you're going to be a successful global premium brand, to participate there. So the German brands have been very successful. They've been there for a long time. They have a well-known brand and strong prestige factor. And one of the advantages for Lincoln is that Lincoln's actually a known brand in China, and Lincoln is seen as a very prestigious brand. So our challenge will be to increase the familiarity of our new Lincoln products in the market.
Now, we've seen the change in attitude, the Lincoln Motor Company, the idea that bespoke premium can really occur in North America and also go up against some of the big vehicles when it comes to what people expect for that area of luxury. Now, as these new products have come to bear, tell us a little bit about the reactions that you've been getting from people and also, hopefully, the conquests that are going to come with it.
Sure, we have had a really strong reaction to the all-new Lincoln MKZ, which we've really just been in market for about 7 months. We've had record sales in North America in 6 to 7 months since we've introduced it. And really the hybrid option is driving a lot of conquest consideration for us. So people are indeed very surprised by Lincoln. People have a traditional recollection and point of view of the Lincoln brand. And when they see the new styling and design inside and out, when they see the hybrid powertrain features that we offer in the Z, as well as really just the new advanced technology that's coming from Lincoln, people are really impressed.
Something I wanted to ask in respect to the MKC, because we understand Ford's global strategy. The less amount of platforms that you can use is definitely going to make things a lot more profitable down the road. But at the same time, you want to make sure that this vehicle has dynamics and a stature and a presence that really is something other than just what it was originally born of. Now, do you think that people really need to remember that when they get into this vehicle and understand that there's not as much escape here as you may think?
Well, I think it's a great point. The global platforms that Ford Motor Company offers is really a competitive advantage for us. But what's incumbent for us to do is really benchmark the true luxury competition in each segment and then make the appropriate changes we need to make in order to provide a true competitive luxury experience with the product. So in the MKC, for example, we've got class exclusive and company exclusive powertrains being introduced in this product. We've made significant changes to the proportions of the product that's coming off the global C1 platform. So we've got a wider track width, we've got a lower roof height that's able to really provide us with design differentiation inside and out. So those are some of the kinds of things that we have to do to really establish ourselves against the German leading competitors in this segment.
I know we can't talk about future product as much as I try to get it out of you guys, but the one thing that has certainly got my attention from the German manufacturers and also what has just come out of the Tokyo Motor Show is the idea that a luxury coupe is going to be needed for many respects to make sure that people are aware that you are addressing that side of the market. So I think of the beautiful Lincolns that I saw here last year, like the Continental Mark II, and even later on products in the LSC sense. So I know we can't talk about it, but I've got a feeling you're looking at it very closely, especially with some concept vehicles too, like the Cadillac El Mirage.
Well, we absolutely are looking at where we go next, and I think one of the most important things for Lincoln is to cover the biggest segments first and very comprehensively. So this is the second of 4 all-new products that we'll have in 4 years, and for us, we really want to execute these as well as we possibly can before we look at what those halo products may be. But I'll say I think that there's a lot of change happening, and whereas traditionally maybe you needed that sports car to provide a halo, now we see products that are even in some of these entry-level segments that really provide design, direction, and excitement for a whole brand. We look at things like the Evoque from Land Rover and see what it's done really for that segment in a unique way. And we would, I would say, not limit ourselves to thinking only that a high-end large sedan is needed or a sports car, but it could come from a segment that's emerging.
Well, the advantage, too, about sharing platforms is that means that you can also evolve that much quicker, especially as fast as the industry moves.
We can. I mean, I think that overall, for us, the platform flexibility and really just establishing the dynamics that we require to hit in each segment is kind of the trick. Take that platform, use it efficiently, but then make the changes necessary and required in order to deliver a world-class competitive product.
Well, so far with the MKC, it definitely seems like you're there. Matthew, I want to thank you for joining us here in Los Angeles at the Lincoln stand.
Thank you.
Well, we're over at the Ford stand right now talking to Kevin George. He's the design Nick. Yeah, I think Design Nick sounds pretty good. And he is the man behind what is behind us, and that is the Ford Edge concept. Kevin, I want to thank you for joining us on the road trip.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here.
Now, Kevin, let's talk about what the Ford Edge has meant to people who have enjoyed it for many years, and also what's happening with the competition and why it's time to kick up something like this concept.
Well, Ford Edge was really at the start of the crossover segment, and it offered a great combination of a sporty look with a lot of utility and a driving position that kind of gets you up over the traffic, and people really responded to that. And as it's continued to be successful, it's had one freshening, which was also very successful, and now other people see the market, they come in, they want a piece of it, and it's time for us to start thinking about what the next Ford Edge is going to look like. Ford Edge concept predicts that future for Edge.
And I think what was interesting about the chat that we had about it earlier was that the face of the person who is looking at the Edge is also changing and how they live their lives.
Yeah, we saw Edge, I think, initially as sort of very active outdoorsy, and now we're seeing those same customers still remain with Edge, but new customers come in that want something a little more sophisticated and maybe have a more urban slant that's a little more exotic in their destination. So we're trying to bring them into the fold as well. And so Edge concept is a little bit more sophisticated to help appeal to them, a little more upscale.
I would even go a little step further, and I would go a little more Lincoln.
Well, I think Lincoln, they have their own set of designers, and I'm not involved with them, and they don't come into my studio as well too often, but we want to keep a distinction between Ford and Lincoln, so we'll definitely consider your comments and as we move forward with Edge, because we've got a lot of great things about the Ford brand DNA. We don't want to mingle. The Lincoln MKX that's on the road today and the Ford Edge share a platform, but they also share some sheet metal, and I think going forward we're going to have to reconsider all of that.
Well, that's definitely going to be interesting when design time comes. Now, the one things that really spoke to me on the Edge concept is this idea that maybe it's simply time for us to give up on door handles. I mean, why try to color code something if it doesn't even have to be there?
Well, on Edge concept, I did shave off the door handles, but it's a very simple execution. It's a standard switch. It's just tucked up under a little pocket. And really, I want to push that technology a little bit, but mostly it's just done for visual effect. I want to emphasize the cleanliness, the precision of the exterior and the surface refinement. And when a door handle's sticking there, people are going to talk to you about the door handle and then maybe a little treatment on the door handle. I want them to focus on the overall picture. So we shaved that off. It's an old hot rodder's trick.
Well, it definitely looks Cali, and the one thing that I also notice here is the continuing massaging for moving air around the vehicle. And a spot on the vehicle that seems to be somewhat forgotten by a lot of manufacturers is where you would normally have a fog light assembly. Now, what you've done here is you've taken that whole driving light array and you still include it, but you're now sculpting the air around the front of the vehicle and reducing turbulence.
We have an air curtain system on the Ford Edge concept, and what that simply means is we're drawing air through an inlet near that fog lamp, and it goes through a duct, turns 90 degrees, and comes out through a tall slit in the wheel opening. There's a lot of turbulent air coming out of your wheels in any car, and that turbulence creates drag. So what the air curtain does is it takes that turbulent air and sort of covers it up, like pulling a curtain across this rumpled cloth, You're smoothing out the airflow down the side of the car. When you do that, you reduce drag and you improve fuel economy. We've made it a styling element as well because, it's a fun technology, it's a helpful technology, and, we want to draw attention to it.
Something that drew my attention when you were speaking about it was the sculpting of the lighting system, and even to the point where the ideas that we normally see on the show floor here at Los Angeles, everyone's embracing LED, everyone's embracing new types of technologies
Right.
to certainly come up with some very sexy lighting. But tell us a little bit how far you guys went on the Edge concept, because when you started polishing all these individual elements of the lights inside to make them really pop, you really got my attention.
Well, what we did was we used LEDs like everyone does, as you know, but what we tried to do was take it a step further and say, how else can we save space and reinforce this idea of technical intricacy? One of the things that we did on the headlamp is we have a chrome bezel. Now, you see a lot of people have a chrome bezel on their headlamp, and it's a decorative element. We wanted a thin aperture for the headlamp, so we said that chrome element's not going to just lie there and be simple. It's going to have to do some more work. We made it the DRL. It lights up. Well, how do you light up chrome? We have what we call a partial metallization. It's like tiny, almost microscopic little holes in the chrome plating to let the light shine through. And when that light shines through, it obscures your vision, your perception of the chrome. So it looks like it goes from opaque chrome to clear. And it's a really fun, technical, playful detail that also serves a very special purpose in enabling that small aperture. We went a step further and turn the LED DRL into the turn signal as well. So you've got this one piece doing 3 jobs.
The other thing I notice inside is how 2 colors that would normally seem to be very close on the spectrum can really give a signature look to interior trim.
Right, the leather on the seats is called is a color position that they call Forte that was developed for this car. And then there's the white inserts that you see that just help it pop. Now that's not inserts like, I don't mean accents like piping, but they're actually these small strips of white leather inserted strategically into the Forte leather, and it just, like you say, the tone on tone really helps pop, and that's a theme that's continued everywhere on the interior and even the exterior. The interior features brushed aluminum. It also features brushed copper. So within the aluminum trim is some copper trim. So there's all these layers. When you spend the time to really fall in love with this concept, we wanted to give you more and more layers of detail to look at, to draw you in. And I think Edge Concept does that really well. I can't take credit for the interior. Our design manager, Hak-Soo Ha, is going to be here to talk in more detail about that, but I think he and his team did a fantastic job.
Now, once the job of your team is done and the vehicle goes out into the world to the Los Angeles show as well as others, what is your hope? I see the reserved seats over to the side here. We're going to have executives. They're going to be gauging. Everyone's going to be wondering, is this the way that the new Ford Edge should go? And tell us what it's like in your world when you get the call.
It's exciting, people like me, we wanted all our lives to design cars and to finally be here at the show and be able to talk about something that, you're asked not to talk about anywhere to anyone during the development. And finally be able to get to talk about it is great. The goal corporately would be that Edge Concept is a huge success, that a lot of positive comments come from the concept overall and the details, and the more people respond to it and talk about it, the easier it is for me to encourage our leaders to help me enact some of these things that we're proposing here.
Fantastic. Well, so far so good. Very impressed with the concept.
Thank
Kevin, want to thank you for joining us here in Los Angeles and showing off the Ford Edge concept.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'm speaking now to Greg Watkins from Ford of Canada. He's our go-to when it comes to things crossover and SUV. Greg, thanks for joining us today here on the road trip in Los Angeles.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Greg, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Ford Edge concept, and we certainly have seen some very interesting technology that is being shown on this concept. We have to make sure it's concept. But the one thing that we wanted to ask as to what is changing for the typical SUV crossover customer?
So the SUV segment globally is a growth segment for Ford as well as other OEMs. There's more entrants. There's more vehicles that go the whole gamut of size from small to the full size traditional utilities. In these vehicles, as they're becoming more and more a part of people's lives, they're looking for no compromise. They're looking for technology. They're looking for style. They're looking for capability, enhanced driving dynamics. And with the Edge concept, what we've done is try to showcase some of the things that Ford's working on that sort of will define what the future of utilities looks like. Technologies, for example, on the Edge, we have the fully assisted parking, where you can literally stand outside the vehicle and the vehicle will park itself, which to people is very important. You can literally take a lot of the insecurities people have around parking, especially in urban markets where many of the utilities do very well. You'll wind up taking a major insecurity away from people. So it's all about technology that help people. Again, we've got another one from the performance angle. We have EcoBoost engines, which we've got in many vehicles. Edge will be no exception. And we've also got another new technology called adaptive steering. And again, it's about technology that helps people in their daily lives. So vehicles that are easier to drive in a parking situation, where at the same time you're on the highway, it's also improved. So improved driving, improved quality materials, for example. Craftsmanship is no compromise. We want better craftsmanship. We want better everything within our SUVs.
It actually also sounds like it's going to appeal to the people who have classically stayed away from the SUV and crossover market.
Yes, there are people who make decisions for lots of different reasons, right? So there are people who have chosen traditionally the car segments for example, fuel economy. Well, guess what? On our new vehicles and new utilities going forward, we've got exciting vehicles like Escape with very efficient EcoBoost engines. Our new other utility vehicles will also have fuel efficient EcoBoost engines, taking away one of those pitfalls. When you take away vehicles that might be a little bit larger in size, and then you give active park assist and you give other technologies that make it easier. You get the blind spot information systems. You get rear cameras. All those types of things which help people to overcome hurdles that may have kept them from going into utility segments in the past, but they'll now be able to realize all the advantages that segment does offer.
Well, so far from what we've seen from the Edge concept, we think it's going to attract a lot of people who may have not put the SUV crossover on their list. Greg, I want to thank you for joining us here in Los Angeles.
Thank you very much.
I'm joined now by Amy Morentic, the Group Marketing Manager for Global Cars, and she's got a Fusion which has some interesting infusions on the inside. Amy, thanks for joining us on the road trip here in LA.
Glad to be here, thank you.
Now tell us a little bit about the partnership with this particular car that's on the display stand with Coca-Cola.
So today we have a Fusion plug-in hybrid. It's 108 mile per gallon, but what's really important today is we have a partnership with Coca-Cola where the interior materials is made from a Coke product called PlantBottle.
Now the PlantBottle, I certainly don't know the alchemy that goes into it, but we're essentially dealing with a plastic bottle that not only can be recycled, but starts life with plant source materials.
It does. 30% of that bottle or that plastic that goes into the bottle is made from plant. It's actually made from sugars taken from plant, primarily sugarcane. So it means 30% of that plastic is now renewable and can be regrown and sustained.
Well, that's a great thing about sugarcane because we do know that it grows extremely fast. And the one thing that we also know from Ford's history with plant source products goes back to the days of Henry Ford with soybeans and even the hemp cart. But the one thing I really like about it is that it feels like real homegrown upholstery.
It really does. So what we've done is we've taken that PlantBottle plastic and we found a way to weave it into fiber. And the fiber is what you see on the inside of the Fusion plug-in hybrid. 30% of the material is made from plant. And we have it everywhere that you use material today. So on the seats, on the seat backs, on the headrests, on the headliner, and also on the door panels. 30% made from plant.
Now, with this particular vehicle that's here today, how soon are we going to see this type of technology make its way into mainstream cars other than the Energi?
Sure. So what we have already in the Fusion is we have recycled material. So on the Ford Fusion today, about 40 pop bottles or soda bottles, depending where you're from, will go into the material today. We also have soy in our foam. So about 30,000 soybeans go into one Fusion for all of the foam that you sit on. We also have denim blue jeans recycled into our carpet fiber. So there's a lot of recycled content already in the Fusion. This is taking it one step further and putting renewable material or plant material into the fabric. It will take a couple years to get it into production if it passes all of our tests. And where we're at now is we're starting to do all of the testing.
So things such as the durability and comparing it to typical upholstery materials now would be some of those tests.
Exactly. Is it cleanable? How does it soil? How does it clean up? Can you get car seats in and out? Is it going to be reliable? Is it going to be durable? Will the sun load affect the color? So all of those things that make sure your car lasts to 200,000 to 300,000 miles, right? We want to make sure that this fabric will make it as well.
Well, Amy, we certainly are interested in seeing how well the product works out, and it's great to see that we just might be able to grow cars as the years go by. Thanks for joining us on the road trip.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of Scott Vitters here at the Ford stand, and he's from the Coca-Cola company, so he's got a vested interest in making sure that things like PlantBottle make their way into things like the Ford Fusion. Scott, thanks for joining us here.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Now, Scott, let's get a little bit of insight in respect to the creation of the bottle and the technology and how it's working for you.
Yeah, Coke's been looking at ways at how we continue to improve the performance of our PET plastic beverage bottles. One of the ways that we saw in terms of innovating for the future was using natural sugars from plants to be able to make the same materials that we have today, but with a lighter footprint on the planet.
Well, the bottles themselves, and they're using actually the sugars that come from things that grow extremely fast, like sugarcane.
No, that's right, but it also can come from a whole variety of different plant feedstocks. So from the waste of food items, think of corn cobs or rice hulls or peels even from fruits and vegetables. So we're excited about that variability of different feedstock solutions for the future that can be used into bottles and then ideally even back into things like cars.
Now, Scott, once you've actually seen the product being made into the seat material, it's on this particular Fusion Energi, tell us your thoughts. Are you starting to get a whole bunch of other ideas as to where this type of textile think could go from something as simple as a bottle?
Well, this journey for us, for Coca-Cola, has really been about making true change. Today, we're in 28 countries, we've introduced 18 billion bottles, and we've got a commitment that by 2020, 100% of our plastic bottles will contain our first generation plant bottle packaging material. But we've always said that for this journey, in our expectations from an environmental perspective, of looking even broader than just the bottle and looking at partnerships. It started with Heinz ketchup, so if you look at your Heinz ketchup, we actually have plant bottle packaging material there, and we're excited of this next step for fibers, working together with Ford and showcasing people that the same plastic for bottles can be used for things like the inside of a car, the carpet that you have, maybe even your clothes as well.
Fantastic. Well, Scott, it sounds like the music's going up to number 11. Must mean another launch here at Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us today on the road trip.
Thank you. Appreciate talking.